The first time I tried Datura was in Israel, where it's pretty common. It's also pretty common in southern Africa, where I come from. Malpeed is Afrikaans for mad seeds, in case anybody's interested. There were 3 of us and we each took about 2 heaped teaspoons of raw mature seeds. The seeds go red when they mature and turn a reddish-brown if you dry them out. We tried the seeds a few times after that and found the mature ones to give the best, well strongest anyway, effect. The first thing I noticed was that my mouth was really dry and had a really bad taste. After about a half an hour I could feel that I was really starting to trip. It was the last coherent thought I had for 15 hours. During the trip I had very little control over my mind or my body. It was like I was awake and acting out my dreams. Most of what I remember about the trip was pieced together when I finally came down. I don't really remember any chronological order for the events that took place. To this day all I remember are flashes of really weird hallucinations. We had taken the seeds at about 10 in the evening. The 3 of us were staying on a construction site that we were working on, so we had the place to ourselves. There were 2 girls staying with us at the time who babysat us for the evening. If it wasn't for them I think someone, probably me, could have got really hurt. Here's a tip. Don't take these things in a half-completed building with lots of sharp objects and power tools lying around. After an hour I must have got really hot, because I took all my clothes off. By this time I was apparently incapable of saying anything. Jillian told me afterwards that every time I tried to say something I would just mumble a few incoherent words. Then I would get upset and concentrate on what I was trying to say. As soon as I opened my mouth to try again the same thing would happen. I remember feeling very frustrated that I could not communicate with the outside world. I also remember almost breaking out in tears because I really felt like I had to take a piss but nothing would come out. My bladder felt uncomfortable the entire evening. Like I said, I don't remember the whole trip. I was told the next day that once I was naked I got down on my hands and knees and started pushing one of those big garbage cans around with my nose. I do remember people speaking to me and not being able to see them. I could see the rest of my surroundings perfectly. If someone was standing directly in front of me I could see right through them. It's difficult to explain, but I could see object that people were standing in front of, but I couldn't see them. Jillian told me later that at one stage she was speaking to me and I kept looking around to see where she was. The most pleasant part of the trip was the next morning. I woke up in bed. I don't know if I had slept or not. I couldn't remember anything from the night before. I sat up and started reading a book. After a few pages I realized that there was no book there. For about 2 hours I had the most incredibly realistic hallucinations, reading books, having conversations with old friends that were on the other side of the world, and reading a huge 3-dimensional animated novel that appeared on the wall. I didn't remember even taking anything the night before and occasionally I would snap back into reality and think I had gone mad. Then another hallucination would begin and I'd get sucked back into the madness. The state I was in differed from the night before in that I was more in control of my conscious functions and I can remember the hallucinations and the time frame clearly. Eventually I fell asleep again and when I woke up I was down. I felt terrible for about 2 days. My mouth was dry and I felt like someone had shat in it. My stomach felt like there was lead in it and I couldn't focus my eyes until the next day. One thing we did notice on subsequent trips was that even people who had stopped smoking up to a year before would think they were busy smoking a cigarette. Suddenly they would realize it wasn't there and start hunting for it on the floor as though they dropped it. I don't know if that's worth mentioning, but I thought it was pretty interesting.